Hi, this is Tairah with Love Prevails, back again for another Monday interview with my pal Jim. How are you, Jim?
Good, Tairah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really glad that you got to join me today for my interview. And with these interviews, I do introduce my business as a interventionist through Love Prevails. And what we do is we work with people that are and their families that are struggling with addiction, and kind of help guide them to help, and show them how they can get help and where to go, and work with their families to get them there. And
Sounds like great work.
It's very rewarding for sure.
Yeah. When did you start this?
I started it in June, and we're moving forward.
That's great. You can enter 2025 all ready to go now with some experience.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
That's good.
Now, are you ready for the new year?
I suppose so. It's that time of the year where, if you're in business, you do some end of the year business planning. You do some life planning. You do some, what am I going to do this year that's going to be different? Maybe you need to change some things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And start a new exercise regimen or a diet or some new things that you want different results that didn't come true last year.
Yeah.
So it's that time of the year that everybody starts to plan things like that.
Yeah. Everything is busy right now. The gyms are get out of control. Everybody changes their eating habits. I know that in sobriety, in the different programs, those blow up with January. Are you a resolution guy? Do you make resolutions?
I've probably been guilty of making resolutions in my life for sure, but I try to just do a mindset of saying, what do I want to achieve, not only this year, but change my life up.
Mm-hmm.
And you start making changes, and know that real change takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen just like that.
Mm-mm.
It takes a lot of time, a lot of work, and you got to change a lot of things to get a different outcome. And be patient. Yeah. And real change takes time. So a resolution to me, I'm not really a resolution guy anymore. What I am is, I want things to be different. I want to have a different life. That's something I went through 8 years ago. So I have a different life. What do I need to do? It was a long journey.
Yeah. I'm not a resolution person. I've made resolutions in the past, never, rarely stick to them. I have friends that do a word of the year. They focus on one word all year long, and I've never been that person either. I tried one year. I was like, well, let's try it, but I'm just not that person. I don't set resolutions, because for me personally, setting a resolution is just a groundwork for failure. So I don't do it at New Year's. I make different lifestyle choices. Like a couple months ago, I decided I'm going to eat clean, and so I'm very slowly changing everything as I replace, because you can't just throw everything away and replace. Not very many people have that kind of money, but so I'm eating very slowly, switching everything over as I run out of things to clean eating. And then I do enjoy the gym. The last year has been a little bit difficult getting to the gym, but that I am getting back into again, and taking care of myself. But it's not a resolution. It's just lifestyle changes that I choose to make.
It's a private commitment to yourself.
Yeah.
It's good.
So, Jim, I'm really glad that you got to join us today, and we get quite a few views on these videos, and so one of the things that I like to ask people is, I know you have a little bit of sobriety, and you work a strong program. Why did you decide to get sober, and what keeps you sober? Why keep this up?
The big question, right? The big question. Well, I'm a lifelong abuser of alcohol, and I'm not a young guy anymore. about 8 years ago, I thought I had reached a low point in my drinking that was going to make some real change happen. Like we said earlier in our start of our conversation today, I had a moment of enlightenment. I found myself in a hospital. And I had never been to a hospital before for my drinking, but I found myself in a hospital in April of 2016. And coming out of that hospital, I was going to think that when I was there, I was going to get everybody in my world to come and dote over me and say, "Oh, Jim, I'm so sorry for your predicament." Not a single person showed up, and not a single person was there the Monday morning when I got out of the hospital on a rainy Monday here in Colorado, out of the University Hospital. I back then took a taxi. I don't think there was Ubers around. When I got to my apartment, and I said to myself, "Boy, you've reached a new low now. You passed out, and you ended up in a hospital, and I had no clue how I got there. But I knew I had a serious problem that was getting worse and worse by the day." So I found myself going to an intensive outpatient with my health care provider. And it was that first day at that intensive outpatient that they said, "We're going to spend 12 sessions with you. They're about 3-hour sessions, 12 of them, and you'll finish in a couple of weeks here. But for this thing to take hold, you need to create a plan, a support plan. Get some sort of support going in your world that then you can use this as the catalyst to take you through a successful transition in your life." And that's what started me on what I thought was my journey. And it really was, if we look back on it. Excuse me. I'm going to take a drink here. If you take a look at what really happened, what I really wanted back then, I wanted everybody to leave me alone. So I did the things that would get them all to think, "Oh, Jim's going to take it seriously now." And I started this intensive outpatient, this other program, working with some other people. Got everybody to leave me alone for a while. And my sobriety didn't take hold. After about 6 months of staying sober, which was a long period of time. I hadn't been 6 months sober my entire adult life. Found myself drinking again, but this time doing a better job, as us alcoholics do, of hiding it. I was doing a real good job of hiding it. I was starting slow, and I was managing a lot of hard work, managing my drinking, trying to drink differently. I thought, I can go back and drink like the man I was when I was in my 20s. And for a period of time, short period of time, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, I did that. But pretty quickly, this disease, which is what I learned I had, is real, and it is progressive, and it's dangerous, and the slippery slope started again. And I did this cycle 9 more times, from 2016 till 2022. I lost more jobs. I lost a relationship with a friend. She said she was done. I reflected back on my marriage, and I had a huge part in the destruction of that marriage. I had horrible relationships with my son and my siblings and my mother. And friends, I learned, were kind of tired of it, tired of the Jim. But I thought so much that they liked me to be this way because I was the fun guy. And through that pandemic experience, I found myself going to my solution, which was feeling sorry for myself. My career is in jeopardy. I'm a real estate guy, and nobody was doing much commercial real estate, I should say, through the pandemic. And I had a really poor 2021, 22, 23, 24 production years. So what did I do for the first couple of years, 21 and 22? I just drank. That was my solution. And just huddled up and just drank, isolated and drank. I reached a point where I had made friends with a couple people in my sobriety program. And one of those individuals, he reached out and he said, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? And I answered my phone and I mumbled something to him. He said, Hell, I'm not doing well. He goes, Oh gosh. Well, I'll come over and see you. I don't recall that conversation. But he showed up at my door and he came in to see me. And I'm embarrassed to say it was not a pretty sight. It was real bad and ugly. But he spent that weekend with me of Memorial Day weekend of 2022. And he got me to a point where he had poured the alcohol that I was hiding all throughout my house and was drinking all throughout my house and poured the empties and threw away everything. He got rid of it all. And after spending 3 days with me, he said, You ready to go into a program? I said, Yeah, I think so. And the next time I walked into the door, what I did, I went in, and this person was sitting there who had seen me over these 8 years, 7 years. And he looked at me. He said, Jim, you look different. I go, Oh, yeah, how's that? He goes, Well, you look like you've been given a gift. I go, What do you mean a gift? He goes, You look really desperate right now. And that's where you have to get get real change to happen. The other time you were doing it to get people off your back, like you had said. Now you're going to do it to save your life. So that's what happened. That's what my life was like. I've got 30 months of sobriety now from that day. I've been working hard in a program. It's hard, but it's not really that hard. It's easy, but it's not that easy. It's all about commitment. It's all about enlightenment, opening your mind up to possibilities, and just keep doing it, little increments. Willingness. The willingness to let go and let it go and say, I can't do this anymore. I haven't had success. Willing to try whatever. I'll listen this time. I'm going to listen to people with serious sobriety and listen to what they did. So I don't have all the answers yet, but I know this, that I don't want to lose what I've got right now because I got a repaired relationship with my son. I'm friends with my ex-wife, which is unbelievable. I communicate better with family and with friends, and they're really happy for me. And now they tell me stories about how they would, back in our drinking days, they would go out and say, Hey, let's go out to dinner. I'll be to town. Should we get Jim? Nah, let's don't invite Jim. It happened a lot. Found out that they had probably 50 events and didn't invite me because they didn't want to experience the drunk Jim. Now I get invited to everything. It's pretty nice. I'm not left out anymore. I'm included. And I'm living a new design for living that I could have never imagined. But if you're struggling with this disease of alcohol or whatever your vice is and whatever's causing you pain, try to find help with a good program of some sort and talk to people and listen and be willing to change. And don't give up just because you had a relapse. If I would have given up, I would have given up in 2016. Right. 9 of those, I kept coming right back in and saying, oh my gosh, it's getting worse. Yep. You're one of those real alcoholics, we call it. You're real. It's going to get real serious. You're going to quit drinking. You're either going to die or you're going to be incarcerated. Or you're going to find out that you can't do it anymore with a higher power's help. You're going to stop. You're going to stop. One of those 3 things is going to happen. You can see it. It's going to happen. So if you think you can keep drinking like the way I drink forever, no, you're going to stop one way or the other. And I chose the way that hopefully preserves my life for a little bit longer and I can make real change happen and be there for my family. So that's my story. I hope that my story can help somebody out there.
I absolutely will. And I've got a couple questions for you because you mentioned a couple things. One about having 9 different relapses. You had to come back 9 different times. And then you mentioned being in real estate. So let me ask you this first. Um, you, you're a successful guy, and and so
I've had success,
you've had success
and I'm
now.
rebuilding my career now.
Okay. Is when you because not everybody comes at it from a place of success. Some of them come from the bottom of the bottom and right off the streets. They come in through all different walks of life. So as somebody who's had success, and sometimes drinking comes with success because you're going out, you're doing um, business events, things like that. You're with business partners, as well as it comes with people that are coming off the street. But I feel, in my opinion, and I could be very wrong, but I feel like it's a little bit different when you're a successful person and you're in those kind of that atmosphere. Is it harder to accept the fact that you have a problem because you know you're successful, you're making money, you're doing the same thing that all the business people that are also making money are doing? Is it harder to accept the fact that you've got a problem when that part of your life is going well, or did that part of your life go?
Sure, I know what you're driving to, and I'll get us there here with a little bit of insight. I have a friend who I spent 40 years drinking with. To this day, he just thinks he's a problem drinker. How could I have so much success and be a real alcoholic like you were, Jim? There's no way I could do the things I'm doing. But as I sit on the outside and I recognize what this disease is about, he demonstrates many of the traits that a real alcoholic has. If you look up, Google that topic, how do I know if I'm a real alcoholic? You'll get a survey conducted years ago of, I think, 12 to 20 different items and questions. If you get rigorously honest with yourself and you answer those questions. Is it harder for somebody with success? I think it is, because I didn't want to even think when I was having my success, and I didn't find a solution until I was really down and was not having success. I think the pandemic, but then I wasn't even capable mode of conducting meetings and dialogue about my profession to people I had to deal with. I couldn't even talk to coworkers. I just isolated. But absolutely, I think if you're having a lot of success, it's hard to recognize. You could call it, I have a little problem. I just need to cut back.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they can. I don't know. Everybody's journey is different. Maybe they can do some things differently and it'll help curb them. But this friend I observed from the outside, and I hope the best for him, but he's been able to manage it pretty good, but he demonstrates a lot of traits of alcoholism.
And some people can. Everybody has different levels of being able to manage, and some can go through life and manage to keep up everything, and other people
Right.
can't. I met a CEO a while back who he didn't have a clue he was an alcoholic, and he was a CEO, super wealthy, and he drank quite a bit, and he went out of town, out of state for some sort of a meeting. He was super sick, so he spent 3 days in his motel room. And on the third day, he was just laying in bed, just sick as a dog, and he started seeing all these dogs that were just bones, just running around the room, on the ceiling, everything. And he was like, I am really sick. What's going on? He went to the ER, and that's how I found out he was having hallucinations. That's how I found out he was an alcoholic, because after being sober for those days, he was having all these hallucinations. But yeah, I feel like when you are successful and you appears to be going well, it's a little bit harder.
It can be, sure.
You mentioned something else about having gone back in and out 9 different times, and this is something that I think that probably a lot of people can relate to, because you get sober. Boy, that drink really looks good still. tell me a little bit more about that. What was, I guess, the cause of your relapse, and what kept you from staying the course?
It's a good question. I would say for me, those 9 relapses kind of boiled down to, well, I must have not have been an alcoholic because I'm able to stop for a serious amount of time. To me, 6 months or 9 months or even a year one time. That's a serious amount of time. Because I wasn't a daily drinker, but I would go in cycles and be a binge drinker for sure. Drink for a week and then stop for a week, and drink for 4 days, stop for 3. Drink for a week, stop for a week. You get it. I found myself not drinking for a period of time, and I said I must have gotten through it. I feel okay. So I think I could possibly go back to drink the way I used to drink in my 20s. Got drunk once in a blue moon and would have beers or drinks with the friends at social events, and would conduct my life in my college years, my first job years, pretty good. It was later in life. So for me, the drinking to stop, I had to smash that lurking notion. That's what they call it, a lurking notion. Will you ever drink again? And I sat in a group with a group of men one time, and everybody in the room had at least a year to 2 years. One guy had 10 years. And somebody asked the question, let's talk amongst ourselves. Is there anything that would cause you to maybe have a drink again? And he posed a question to the group. What if you found out you had cancer and you were given 60 days to live? Do you think you might have a couple drinks, say, oh, what's the use anyway? And by golly, I was the last one to talk. Every one of the guys said I probably would, thinking that it's over, reach the end, have one more drink just to remember good times, And I could not believe these men who were sober for a long period of time. And it got to me, and I said, here's my answer. Absolutely not. I so much enjoy sobriety that I would want to enter whatever's after this life sober. And I would want to leave my loved ones knowing that I stayed sober to the bitter end. And I stayed sober, and I fought through even that. And they all go, can I change my answer? And they all wanted to change their answer. I also will tell you this, that there comes a period of time after about 18 months for me when the thought of an alcoholic drink disgusts me now. But before that, the thought of an alcoholic drink sure was tempting. Many times, driving by the liquor stores, I would drive by and say, oh gosh, I remember buying a bottle of bourbon out of that. Maybe I could just have a couple. Okay, and I found myself pulling in there, and all of a sudden, 4 hours later, standing in the bathroom, looking in the mirror and going, how did this happen again? I pulled into that liquor store, and without a second thought, I bought a bottle of bourbon, came home, watched a football game, and had a couple bourbons, and the bottle's gone, and I'm ready to go back for more. How did that happen? And that's what happened. But I don't have those temptations. I can honestly say I'm not temptation free because I'm always up for anything, but I don't have those kind. The lurking notions in my life have been smashed. That's what you have to do. You have to get to the point where you enjoy sobriety so much, you won't risk it for anything.
Right. I'm trying to think of that. I can't say that it necessarily disgusts me, the thought of a drink. What goes through my head and like just a few days ago, I was watching TV and they were taking all these shots on TV, and I was like, that looks pretty good. Take those shots,
Really?
because yeah.
And you've got several years sobriety.
I wouldn't say several, but but what does it for me is I've come too far. And it resulted in too much damage. And I watch my girls, reaching, I've got my oldest getting ready to celebrate a year. My youngest is, I think she picked up her 8 months, or she's getting ready. I think she's got her 8 months. That is more important than any drink that I could ever take. And while you can't stay sober for somebody else, I would not want to do anything to disrupt their path. And then and that's not a reason to stay sober. That's their journey, not mine. However, I wouldn't want to do anything to disrupt where they're going. And then for me, sobriety for me, it's a life of happiness. I didn't have a life of happiness before. It's a life of not minus struggles, but far more fulfilling, and the struggles are easier to manage. And I still have my struggles. I still have heartbreak. I still have different things that happen, but it's easier to manage, and I'm not a victim. I just things still happen where your instant thought is, you made me, or and then, but my next thought is, well, what did I do? What's my part? And when you can see your part, it's by far easier to manage the situation and to move forward. Whereas if you can't see your part and you're in that victim mode,
That's good.
You're there forever.
That's good.
And so that's what it means to me, is just still got my issues. I still got, I still deal with life.
Yeah,
But
you deal with it now on life's terms, and you got some tools now, and it's good to have emotions about issues in life. Life's hard, and it can be joyful, and it can be really hard and really sad, but you don't turn to the old solution, you have a different solution. And when you can handle life on life's terms now, we're very capable as human beings, if you're healthy, to deal with a lot. I don't think our heart is going to give us something we can't handle. But if you don't resort to adding another problem to it, start drinking over it, because all drinking did for me was add another problem. Now I have a drinking problem on top of the problem I had, and it's making everything worse.
And it didn't solve any problems.
And it was not a solution.
It made them worse. So I'm going to ask you one more question here. So somebody mentioned to me about a week or so ago, they are still in that victim mode, because it takes time to work through that. That's not an overnight gone. It takes time to work through that and to figure out how to change that. And somebody mentioned to me the other day that I want an apology. These people owe me an apology, and they're not ready to let that go. And my advice, or my recommendation was, to let them know that we're not, we can't fix them. We can't clean their side of the street. We have to clean our side of the street, and you have to be able to let it go. And that was something that I really struggled with my first year of sobriety. Is I was still in that victim mode, and these people, I needed an apology to be able to move on. Well, I'm never going to get that apology. And this person that I was talking to, they're never going to get that apology. It's not likely anyway. And I had to let that go. What kind of advice do you have for somebody that is still in that mindset, and that is, I stayed drunk because I couldn't deal with the things that had happened in the past, and that beat me down so low, and that I held inside of me because I didn't know how to deal with that. But that kept me in my sickness. And it wasn't until it took a lot for me, and My sponsor reminds me all the time how difficult that was. But it took a lot for me to work through that and to get to a point where I was just like, I'm done. I don't want this anymore. Take it. What kind of advice do you have for somebody like that?
That's an incredible question. Right there is when someone comes into a program with everything that they've been dealing with, how do they get through and break through to the other side? That's what it really takes. It's time. It's also about forgiveness. It's about acceptance. You got to get into acceptance of some things that have happened in your life and say, that person's really sick and they're dealing with their life the best they know how, and they wronged me, and I want justice. I want some justice. But you know what? We're not the justice givers. All we can do, if you let it go and you actually look at them from a position of how sick that they might be in their life and the things that they're dealing with, and you just say, I'll let that go and it'll happen the way it's supposed to happen later. I'm not going to let it own me anymore. It's not going to own the way I am in this world. I got to let it go. It took a long time to get to that. That was my 18-month. I can remember going through I had a guy who led me through this program. Got a year. Towards the end, I was lying a lot and drinking. I wasn't telling him the truth. I didn't want to disappoint him. But he said one thing. He said, Jim, I know you've been drinking. I came clean to him and I said, I've been drinking. He said, I know you've been drinking. He said, I hope you get this program. If I could just say one thing to you, though, let go. You go, what do you mean? He goes, drop the rock.
Oh, geez, yeah.
So in the program that I'm in, part of the program, it was my character defects. My character defects, if I list them all out, of the possible character defects a human being can have in their life, there were some I just couldn't let go. And a rigorous honesty, I wasn't an honest person. And I also held on to resentment so much that they poisoned me still. If I could let go of those things, I found just let go and actually pray for the other person. And it was an amazing thing. I said, oh my gosh, they have no power over me anymore. And those people who used to mess with me in my life don't have any power over me anymore. I've turned it over. I'm in acceptance. The resentments have been stripped down. They've fallen away. And I've forgiven them, even though they didn't do anything to earn any forgiveness or anything. If they see me living a new design for living, it's hard, but I can tell you, if you work hard with another alcoholic who has sobriety and they take you through a program, that's what it did for me. And you stay with it. You keep coming back. You have those 9 relapses and you keep coming back. Never give up. I can tell you, for me, it came true. And all of a sudden, I'm not angry about any of those things anymore. I've let it go. And it's a beautiful thing when it happens. And now when I wake up, I don't come to anymore. I arise, I wake up. And it's a beautiful thing to wake up on a Saturday morning and go, wow, I'm sober and I have a clear head and this is going to be a great day. And I don't have to come to anymore. So hang in there and work with another alcoholic and learn. Well, you learn if you go through a good, solid program. You got to work it with another person who can take you through. So, thanks.
Freedom. That's where I found true freedom, is by letting that go. And it still crops up from time to time.
Sure.
But then I just let it go.
It's poison.
It's easier to let it go than it ever was. But that's where it just like everything changed for me.
Yeah. The holidays are a tough time for people.
Yeah.
And it tends to bring a lot of those things manifest themselves because there's a lot of memories from bad holidays that are created. And for me, and I think back and I go, no, I'm going to push that out. I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to have a better time in now. But for me, my holidays are pretty nice.
Yeah.
We spend time as a family together, and there's still some sickness in there. But I'm doing the things I can do for me, and and I'm now, kind of the patriarch of the family, and I'm back to being that leader. Dad died a long time ago, and we got brothers and sisters, and all the kids. They're saying, "Wow, Jim has really changed."
Yeah.
That's a great feeling. Thanks for your support and having me do this today.
I'm really glad that you came and that you did this, and I'd love to have you back at some point. And I want to thank everybody that did watch and the people that are going to watch moving forward. I do want to remind you that my email or my website is down here. I'd love for you to take a look at it. We're going to be dropping a new page here in a few days. I'm very excited about. Again, if you will like, share, and comment, I'd love to know what your New Year's resolutions are. If you even hold them. Sobriety is not a New Year's resolution. It is a lifestyle change. But if that's what gets you in the door, then by all means make that resolution. Every Monday at 3:30, would love to continue inviting you back. I want to wish everybody a happy New Year's. Your best life is out there waiting for you. Connect with me, and we can find it together. Thanks again, and I hope you have a very happy New Year.
You too, Tairah. Thanks.
Let's see, it takes me a minute. There we go.
Okay.
Wait.